Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ollie King, and you may have seen me before on TikTok reviewing race weekends from the Formula 2 and Formula 3 series with a keen interest on our young British drivers that are competing. But now the Formula 3 season is over, so what am I going to do? Well, that's why I'm here today. I'm going to be giving you a more in-depth rundown of how our British drivers competed in Formula 3 this year, and I'm going to also be looking at the top five in the championship, as you can't really ignore how well they all performed. So today I'm going to be looking at Callum Voisin, Freddie Slater, and James Hedley from Britain, and going a bit more in depth about how they got to Formula 3 in the first place, how they done this season, and what they're potentially going to do in the future. Now, the first British driver I'll be speaking about in this video is none other than James Hedley. The 22-year-old finished 28th in the championship with only 7 points, meaning he was the lowest scoring Brit in the whole of the category. Now, he had a bit of a difficult season as he jumped ship from AIX, where he was the majority of the season, to Van Amersfoort Racing for the final round in Monza. Now, his 7 points that he picked up, he did manage to get from starting in reverse pole around Budapest. Unfortunately, he only managed 4th place, resulting in his only points scoring of the season. To an extent, James has had a successful youth career with 8 victories in 2 seasons in the British Formula 4, following up with 2 wins in 3 seasons in the British Formula 3 against some rather big names like Luke Browning and Abby Pulling. Perhaps James's biggest success so far in his driving career came in 2020 at Thruxton, where he won all 3 races that weekend in the British Formula 4 series. Unfortunately for James this season, he has sometimes seemed out of his depth in the FIA Formula 3 series, and his average finishing position for the season was 17th. But we have to acknowledge that P4 probably bolsters that quite a lot. Overall, I think it's clear that James has potential to succeed in the series. I think he just needs some consistency. Obviously, being swapped from AIX to Van Amersfoort Racing right at the end of the season probably didn't do him any good, as he couldn't get to grips with the new car in time to adapt for the final 2 races. Now, I hope that he's in Formula 3 next year, as I do believe that as soon as he gets a full season in the same team, he could show glimpses of brilliance. And hopefully one day we could see him on the top step of that Formula 3 podium. But can he go any step further? That's something I'm not too sure about just yet. On to our next driver now, that being Freddie Slater. The 17-year-old only competed in 2 race weekends this year, but in his first race, he came second and got the fastest lap in the Bahrain Sprint. What a way to make a name for yourself in your first ever outing in Formula 3. It was last year, however, where he made a real name for himself in the Italian F4 series, one of the most prestigious junior racing categories in the world. He took home 15 wins, 11 pole positions, and 10 fastest laps, breaking the previous record of most wins held in the season by none other than Kimi Antonelli. Alongside this, he also won the series by 143 points. Alongside Formula 3 this season, he is also competing in the GB3 series as well as FRECA, 2 very notorious racing categories for the open wheel cars. In GB3 this year, he has stunned in Silverstone and produced moments of brilliance in Belgium, starting from last on the grid and still managing to win one of his races. At the time of recording, there are only 3 rounds left in the FRECA Championship this season, and so far Freddie has won 5 races, taking home 3 fastest laps and 4 pole positions. And to top it off, he is also leading the championship. And just as you thought all of this news couldn't get any better for the 17-year-old, he has just been announced to be racing for Trident in Formula 3 in 2026. The team that have won the last 3 Drivers' World Championships in the series. So the future looks very, very promising for Freddie. He is fantastic on track, he is brilliant at overtaking, and he is ridiculously fast. He is definitely going to be one next year that I will be keeping my eye out for, and for further years than that as well. Now on to Britain's highest scoring Formula 3 driver this season, that being 19-year-old Callum Voisin. Now Callum this year finished 14th in the championship, 2 places worse off than how he performed last year, and also took home 52 points this year, which was 15 points worse than last season. There were big hopes for the 2023 GB3 champion this year with the Rodin car. Alongside him were Louis Sharp and Roman Belinsky, 2 young drivers that have set the world alight in junior motorsport. The championship that Callum won in 2023 had some tough competition, most namely his title rival, none other than the McLaren Junior and the Irishman in Formula 2, Alex Dunn. So the fact that he managed to beat him to the title shows what kind of skill and talent Callum has. With it being Callum's second season in the Formula 3 series, you would think that he would progress from his prior season. However, with only 1 podium and 9 points finishes this year, unfortunately he wasn't able to do any better. However, he did manage to finish all but one of the races he competed in, showing that he knows how to keep it safe on the track. With all of this taken into consideration, Callum finished an average position of 11.8 on the grid this year, meaning he's just on the fringes of consistently being in the points. A few good races here and there and a few moments of fortune for him could really mean he can have a push for the Formula 3 title if he competes in the series next year. I really hope he does, but you never know with the series. They seem to chop and change the drivers every 5 seconds. But there was one moment this year that really stood out for him, and that was a Formula E test in Berlin. These days, a chance to race in Formula E is a very, very viable option for a lot of Formula 3 and Formula 2 drivers. Just ask Formula 2 race winner Taylor Barnard, who made his transfer there just last year. Overall, Callum is a thrilling driver to watch, and if he competes in Formula 3 next year, I do believe he will do very well. He had top competition as his teammates this year, and next year I'm hoping he can maybe push for the title. Now I've stopped talking about the British drivers in the Formula 3 season this year, I'm now going to speak about the top 5 in the championship, 4 of which are part of junior academies. The first driver I want to speak about is Martinius Stenshorne. The Norwegian is a junior for McLaren Racing and this year won the Monaco Sprint Race and the Austria Feature Race. He wasn't regularly in the points, however when he was he did score big and he finished the season on 89 points. In just his second season in the sport he moved up 13 positions from his first try and also ended up on 52 points better than his first go around. 4th place in the championship was none other than Red Bull Junior and German driver Tim Tramnitz. He was in contention for the title coming out of Austria, however in the final 4 rounds he only managed to score 1 point, that being in the final feature race at Monza. Picking up 94 points and a win in Imola, it looked very good for Tramnitz to be in for a chance at the title come the end of the season. However, his lack of form at the end of the year did unfortunately let him down. In 3rd place was Mari Boya, the Spaniard being the only one in the top 5 not to be part of a junior academy. However, he did play a crucial part in helping Campos Racing to lift their first ever constructors title. He won the Silverstone feature race and also picked up an additional 4 more podiums in his 3rd ever effort in the Formula 3 Championship. After finishing his previous year's 17th and 15th in the championship, coming 3rd in this year's effort is a great result for the young driver. The driver that finished runner-up in this season's championship was none other than Nikola Tsolov, the Bulgarian Red Bull Junior. Now, after last season, a few people were looking down on him after his antics in the Australian qualifying. However, 2 wins and 3 podiums this year and exhilarating pace in 90% of the races really pushed him on to almost clinch the title this season. After finishing 22nd and 11th in his previous two efforts at this championship, coming runner-up is a huge boost of his confidence, and I'm sure we will see him in Formula 2 next year. On to the champion now, and that is none other than the young Brazilian and Ferrari junior Rafael Camara, who was absolutely sublime all year. Since 2022, he has finished in the top 5 of the standings in whatever racing series he has competed in, showing how good this young man really is. After winning FIA just last year, the young Brazilian had a lot of pressure on his shoulders to do well this season. However, the 4 wins soon shut the critics up, and he was by far the best driver in the whole of the series throughout the year. His win in Hungary in the feature race meant that he wrapped up the title with 1 race weekend to go, meaning he could ease off for the race weekend in Monza. However, he didn't do that, and he had a sublime race in the feature race, the final race of the season, where he went from 30th on the grid to 5th. In perhaps one of the best races in Formula 3 ever. Overall, this season has been a really interesting one, with plenty of action in every single weekend, and Rafa Camara was the clear standout from the 37 drivers that competed this year. By having so many drivers and so many cars on the grid, it's always hard to tell who is going to make the next steps up through the career ladder and who is not. However, like Formula 1, there is a lot of politics that go on. If you've got a lot of money and are backed by a Formula 1 team, then there's a big chance of you making that big step to Formula 2. With the champion Rafa Camara, we might be seeing him sooner rather than later in Formula 2, as Max Esterson and Sami Megatunov have been both relieved of their duties at Trident for Formula 2 for the rest of the season, meaning we could see the champion in the second step of the Formula Racing series. There are some drivers that I do believe are good enough to make that step to Formula 2, but I do think they need 1 or 2 more years still in Formula 3 to make a name for themselves and get to grips with racing on the world stage. Those being Ugo Chukwu, the McLaren junior driver, and Alessandro Giusti, the Williams junior driver. Callum Voisin I also believe we will see in Formula 2 one day, and of course, by the sounds of things, Freddie Slater as well. It has been a brilliant season to watch, and I've thoroughly enjoyed keeping an eye on the young British drivers and seeing how they're doing. It may not showcase some of the best racing at times, but there are moments of brilliance like Camara in Monza, where you just have to sit back and clap and admire what is going on in front of your very eyes. Thank you for watching this video today. I know it is extremely different to the form of videos I usually do, but I thought I had to do the series justice. After putting on such a show for us, I can only give back by showcasing everything that the brilliant drivers have done for us this season. But we are not quite done, as Formula 2 still has 3 rounds left this season, that being Baku, Qatar, and of course Abu Dhabi. With Luke Browning still in the hunt for the championship, I seriously hope the young Williams driver can clinch it right at the end. But if you have enjoyed this video today, please give it a like, please subscribe to the channel and follow my TikToks of course, and I'll be back at the end of the season when Formula 2 is over and done with to do a video very similar to this one.